At least 1,400 people are dead after a 6.0 magnitude earthquake struck eastern Afghanistan late Sunday. Thousands more are hurt and entire villages wiped out. The U.S. Geological Survey says the quake struck near Jalalabad, close to Pakistan, just before midnight at a shallow depth that made it especially devastating. Taliban officials report more than 3,000 injured and over 5,000 homes destroyed. The UN estimates 12,000 people have been directly impacted. Survivors describe digging through rubble with their bare hands. One man told the AP he survived while buried up to his chest, but his wife and children did not. Rain, landslides, and washed-out roads are slowing rescue teams. Helicopters are airlifting the wounded. Aid groups say Afghanistan's health network, already gutted by funding cuts, is overwhelmed. The Taliban is pleading for international help. The UK has pledged more than $1 million in emergency relief. India has delivered tents and food, and China has promised help according to Afghanistan's needs. The U.S. expressed condolences but has not announced any aid. This is Afghanistan's third major earthquake since 2022.
Footage shared by a local news outlet showed a flattened area between mountain ranges with a group of people searching the site. A rebel group which controls central Darfur Mara Mountains said one village had been leveled to the ground and appealed for assistance to recover the bodies.
The disaster was caused by torrential rains in the days leading up to the landslide. Sudan is currently in the middle of its flooding season, which runs from July through to October. And every year, hundreds of lives are lost in the seasonal rain. But this landslide is the worst in recent memory. It's believed that only one person has survived from the village, which is located in the remote and mountainous area of Jabal Marra. The region's difficult terrain and inaccessibility are slowing down rescue efforts, making it extremely hard to recover the bodies. Given the scale of devastation, the group is now appealing for international help.
A local emergency network, which has been providing support to communities across Sudan during the war, said its teams recovered the bodies of at least 9 people.
Kindergartners in Tennessee are starting school with more than ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. This year, they're learning about firearm safety, too. The new law passed by the Tennessee General Assembly in 2024 requires students at all grade levels to receive yearly training. Students will learn how to store firearms safely, what to do if they find one, and the importance of telling an adult immediately. The lessons stay neutral on politics and use no live firearms or ammunition. Simple rules: stop, don't touch, leave, and tell an adult reinforce a message. But educators say guidance is sparse and parents can't opt out. Tennessee State Representative Jason Powell warned students who have experienced school shootings already could face trauma. The Tennessee Comptroller found 63 school shooting incidents from 1998 to 2023, including guns fired, brandished, or bullets hitting school property. The State Department of Health reports firearms as the top non-medical cause of child deaths in 2022, 4.8 per 100,000 children, with homicides up 16% since 2018. All were deemed preventable. So far in 2025, Tennessee has seen one school shooting, killing one student and injuring 2 others. Outside the state, a shooting in Minneapolis killed 2 and injured dozens, reigniting the national debate on gun safety and lawmakers' responses. Read the full story.
If you don't have this on you, how do you feel?
I'm safe. I don't feel safe.
A passport is typically not something that a teacher needs to bring to their classroom, much less the bathroom.
Every time I go outside or wherever I go, always with me. Yeah, always like even in the bathroom. I just keep it with me all the time.
But such is the reality for this preschool teacher as she begins this new school year in Washington, D.C.
Good morning, welcome.
Where the joy of kids returning to the classroom is meeting the political moment.
Well, I just want to thank everybody.
As President Trump's federal law enforcement surge casts a shadow on the start of the school year, with National Guard troops, checkpoints, and immigration raids, parents, teachers, teachers and students are fearful about getting caught up in this, even if they are U.S. citizens.
Aquí, muy bien, excelente.
At Communikids, a Spanish immersion preschool in Northwest D.C., administrators are making very specific changes to respond to the new environment, aimed at protecting teachers, students, and families as fears mount.
Our Spanish-speaking staff feels targeted. They feel that there's profiling, and they're fearful.
The school has spent weeks ensuring employees' documentation is in order. It now has hard copies of those records at each of their sites in case they are asked for them, and is advising teachers to carry their papers and passports with them. For the first time, the school has created an ICE protocol, outlining for teachers exactly what to do if immigration officers arrive.
This was something we never had to even think about in the past, an ICE policy.
Some parents are also taking precautions.
I'm afraid of speaking my language, and I'm sticking to English just to feel safe, especially when I'm with my daughter outside.
A few years before, it was a very happy environment to grow a family, and so we're looking for that to get into a normal stage back into the city.
During back-to-school meetings, administrators say parents asked an unusual combination of questions: if the snacks they serve are organic, and what are their plans for dealing with ICE enforcement.
Probably a year ago, nobody knew what ICE was, and now we have parents asking us, what is your ICE policy? It's very unsettling.
Other schools and daycares, especially from less affluent areas of D.C., tell CNN they are taking other steps to navigate the current environment.
I never thought that I would see the National Guard patrolling a city that there are not riots going on.
Sunlen Serfati, CNN, Washington.
The price of gold has surged to more than $3,500 per ounce after comments made by Donald Trump on Truth Social.
To discuss, we are joined by Sebastian Mellons from Schroders. Seb, good morning to you. So what exactly did Trump say to drive these prices up?
It's not just the one thing he said. It's just been a continual attack on the independence of the Federal Reserve, so the same as the RBA here, the central bank that dictates monetary policy. He's been trying to fire people off the board. He's calling Powell, who's the chair of the board there, too late Powell, and effectively saying they have to cut aggressively to defend the economy. The problem is the economy so far is fine. GDP was 3.3%, very strong, and inflation, if anything, is going to rise from tariffs. So if he's forcing the central bank to cut rates while the economy is strong, that's inflationary, which supports gold.
He is really messing with the central bank, isn't he? Who are the main buyers then?
So it's been a sort of a structural buy from central banks, say in the East. So China, Russia, India, for example, that's a structural demand story. But the sort of Western investor has stood away for now, because they've been buying NVIDIA, Bitcoin, everything else. So this Trump story has got them involved now. So now you're seeing buying of ETFs, you're seeing investors like ourselves buy gold, and that's pushing up the Western demand to have another push higher. So you have structural demand, now cyclical demand coming together to push it to all-time highs.
Wow.
Isn't gold already up, just quickly?
It's up, and it's up more.
Yeah, okay.
So it's up like 33% year to date, which is 3 times the S&P.
It might keep going too.
New tax laws kicked in this month, and they're about to hit millions of Americans who rely on SNAP benefits, better known as food stamps. But while families lose help, big grocery chains could actually gain. The Congressional Budget Office estimates nearly 2.5 million Americans will lose SNAP benefits over the next decade, with cuts ranging from $72 to $231 a month. SNAP dollars make up about 12% of all grocery sales. Experts say discount giants like Walmart, Kroger, and Costco will likely benefit as families stretch their budgets. Walmart, already the leader in SNAP sales, can use its size to offer lower prices than smaller stores can match. But for independent grocers, the cuts could be devastating. Katina Holliday, who owns a small market in Mississippi, told CNBC Walmart will, quote, benefit totally because small stores pay higher costs and have to keep prices up just to survive. Analysts say even if shoppers cut back, they still need food and will go where the dollar stretches the furthest.
The world trusts and believes in India, and together we will build the future of semiconductors. That's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's message while inaugurating the Semicon India 2025. The Prime Minister also outlined a bold vision for India's role in the global technology landscape. The three-day conference aimed at catalyzing India's semiconductor ecosystem has brought together more than 20,000 participants, including CEOs and of leading global chip makers, policymakers, innovators, and students from across the country. Drawing a parallel between past and future energy sources, the Prime Minister said that tiny chips will power the 21st century.
एक तरफ जब दुनिया भर की इकोनॉमीज में चिंताएं हैं, आर्थिक स्वार्थ से पैदा हुई चुनौतियां हैं, उस माहौल में भारत ने 7.8% की ग्रोथ हासिल करके दिखाई है.
This vision follows Modi's recent visit to Tokyo Electron Miyagi Limited, which is a leading Japanese semiconductor company. There, he underlined the strong complementary between India's growing semiconductor manufacturing ecosystem and Japan's technological strengths. The Prime Minister emphasized that the semiconductor sector is a key area for India-Japan cooperation, a partnership that promises to accelerate India's rise as a major player in the global chip market. India's semiconductor market is on a sharp growth trajectory. According to the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, the current market size is estimated at $45 to $50 billion, and by the year 2030, it's projected to be more than double, reaching $100 to $110 billion. This surge reflects India's rising role in the global semiconductor value chain.
And now turning to South America, Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has once again slammed the U.S. government's deployment of warships to the southern Caribbean. Speaking at a conference with international media in Caracas on Monday, Maduro said his country was at maximum preparedness and ready to respond if attacked by forces Washington has in fact deployed in the region.
This press conference is important because Venezuela is facing the greatest threat that the continent has seen in the last 100 years. 8 military ships with 1,200 missiles and a nuclear submarine are targeting Venezuela. It is an extravagant, unjustifiable, immoral, and absolutely criminal, bloody threat. Absolutely criminal.
Known for his fiery anti-U.S. tirades, Maduro said communication with Washington have broken down and warned if he would constitutionally declare a quote-unquote republic in arms if the U.S. launched an attack.
If Venezuela were attacked, it would immediately enter a period of armed struggle in defense of the national territory, in defense of the history and people of Venezuela, and we would constitutionally declare the republic in arms.
Maduro has also warned President Donald Trump that any U.S. military action against Venezuela would, in his words, stain his hands with blood.
Mr. President Donald Trump, you must be careful because Marco Rubio wants to stain your hands with blood, South American, Caribbean, Venezuelan blood. They want to drag you into a bloodbath, to tarnish the Trump name forever with a massacre against the Venezuelan people, with a terrible war across South America and the Caribbean.
Now, during the press, Maduro also accused the United States of seeking to topple his regime through the deployment, even as he extended an offer of peace to President Trump.
On a human level, if you asked Nico, that is me, what message I would send to Mr. Donald Trump, President of the United States, I would say, seek peace. In us, you will always find a friendly hand for peace, for development, for independence, for dignity, and with respect. The pursuit of regime change is exhausted and has failed as a policy worldwide.
Now, Maduro's latest comments come at a time when tensions have been at their highest over the deployment, which Washington says aims to address threats from Latin American drug cartels. Reports indicate most seaborne drug traffic to the U.S. moves via the Pacific, not the Atlantic, where the U.S. forces are currently stationed. However, to be clear, the U.S. has not made any threat of invasion, and reports suggest the U.S. Navy has deployed 3 destroyers and 1 cruiser, with 3 amphibious assault ships expected to enter this week. Washington has also reportedly deployed a nuclear-powered submarine and has been flying spy planes in the region to gather intelligence. In response, Venezuela has sent its own warships and drones to patrol the coastline and has also launched a drive to recruit thousands of militia members to bolster its defenses. Speaking about the militias on Monday, Maduro said more than 8 million Venezuelans have enlisted as reservists so far.
We have reached a consolidated figure of enlisted militiamen and reservists of 8,200,000 Venezuelans, men and women, who have stepped forward and said, "I am ready." 8,200,000 Venezuelans, but it remains open.
Venezuelan Foreign Minister, citing a United Nations report, reportedly told counterparts in several Latin American countries that the deployment of U.S. maritime forces was built on a quote-unquote false narrative. However, reports indicate that Guyana's President Irfan Ali has welcomed Washington's military deployment, stating that his country would support any measure to eliminate threats to its security and the region. Now, Maduro has been in Donald Trump's crosshairs since the Republicans' first term from 2017 to 2021. More recently, Washington doubled down on the bounty for Maduro's capture to $50 million from $25 million. In addition, his 2024 re-election has been not recognized by the United States or much of the international community. In defending himself, Maduro reportedly insisted on Monday that he was the legitimate winner of last year's presidential election. However, reports have claimed otherwise, alleging that the polls were in fact fraudulent and rigged. So as Venezuela and the United States trade accusations over the deployment, the standoff continues to fuel uncertainty across the Caribbean, with regional security and diplomatic outreach hanging in the balance.
China is about to show off new weapons that could reshape the balance of power at sea. At a massive military parade in Beijing this week, China will unveil 4 new Eagle Strike anti-ship missiles, including one, analysts say, could reach Mach 8 and hit targets 750 miles away. Satellite images and parade rehearsals show the YJ-15, YJ-17, YJ-19, and YJ-20 missiles, all designed to punch through U.S. Navy defenses in the Western Pacific. The YJ-17 is drawing the most attention, with experts warning its combination of speed, range, and a heavy warhead could put aircraft carriers at risk far from China's coast. The parade marks the 80th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II. Tens of thousands of troops will march through Tiananmen Square, reviewed by President Xi Jinping alongside Vladimir Putin and North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Analysts say the new missile rollout highlights Beijing's push to undercut American naval influence in Asia. A senior analyst told Bloomberg the systems are built to increase the chances of defeating U.S. ship defenses. The U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency has described this type of hypersonic missile as capable of aerodynamic maneuvers and ballistic lofting, making them harder to intercept. Japan has urged world leaders to boycott the parade, warning it carries anti-Japanese overtones. Still, more than 20 foreign heads of state are expected to attend.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has hailed a new era of defense and security as the country looks to shift from deterrence and defense to war-fighting readiness, facing what it calls an imminent threat from Russian attacks. The UK is now planning to own Iron Dome missile defense shield.
Amid what is seen as rising Russian aggression, the British Army is looking to boost its missile stockpiles. The UK's Defence Ministry is gunning for its own air defence missile systems, with the capability to shoot down cruise missiles and drones. The carnage of Moscow's weaponry is worrying Britain's decision-makers. The UK fears that it may not be able to withstand Russian assaults. In the event of a hot war with Russia, while Israel has its own famed Iron Dome and David's Sling, and India has its Sudarshan Chakra, Britain presently has nothing compared to these multi-layered defensive systems. UK's leading defence expert, James Cartledge, says the need of the hour is to buy US's SM-3 system, which can intercept ballistic missiles outside the Earth's atmosphere. Britain faces an undeniable threat from Russia's cruise missiles that can be launched from strategic bombers like the Tu-95, or from submarines such as the Yazan class operating to the north and west of the UK. Against Britain, Russia would likely focus on high-value military targets, including its critical airfields and command and control centers. Defending these targets is topping UK's priority list. UK's recent procurement of more ground-based air defence systems, such as Sky Sabre, will help provide shorter-range defence of key sites against Russia's cruise missile salvo. But that doesn't solve the larger problem. Russia's hypersonic glide vehicles, such as Avangard, are capable of piercing the missile defence systems. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has vowed to not gamble with national security. British lawmakers have accelerated 2.5 to 3% of GDP spending on defence. It's time that one of NATO's leading members move to warfighting readiness to protect its people. Having its own Lion Dome has now become imperative to UK's defence capabilities.
Americans are growing more pessimistic about the economy. A new Wall Street Journal NORC poll shows nearly 70% say the American dream either no longer holds true or never did. It's the bleakest reading in 15 years of polling, and now a new warning. Moody's chief economist Mark Zandi says the U.S. is on the brink of recession. He tells Newsweek that red indicators are flashing in housing, employment, and consumer prices. We're not there yet, he says, but a downturn could hit by year's end if layoffs begin to spike. Zandi points to President Trump's tariffs and tougher immigration policies as factors freezing payrolls, with businesses taking a wait-and-see approach. But he also notes the economy's fundamentals remain strong, and growth in states like California and New York could help the country avoid a full-blown recession. The poll also shows another big gap. Just 17% of Americans think the U.S. has the world's strongest economy, while nearly 40% say that other countries are doing better, a 15-point jump since 2021. Donald Trump has dismissed the gloom, calling the U.S. economy the hottest on earth.
Something completely different, but about a big viral social media trend over the weekend. How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead? You see that?
No.
People didn't see you for a couple days. 1.3 million user engagements as of Saturday morning about your demise.
Really?
You didn't see that?
You know, I have heard, it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said, there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. No, I heard that. I get reports. Now, you knew I did an interview that lasted for about an hour and a half with somebody, and everybody saw that was on one of your competitors. I did numerous shows and also did a number of truths, long truths, and I think pretty poignant truths. No, I was very active over the weekend. They also knew I went out to visit some people at the club that I own, pretty nearby on the Potomac River. And no, I've been very active actually over the weekend. I didn't hear that one. That's pretty serious stuff.
I'm glad it's
well, it's fake news. You know, it's just it's so fake. That's why the media has so little credibility. I knew they were saying, like, is he okay? How's he feeling? What's wrong? I said, I just left. And it's also sort of a longer weekend, you know, it's Labor Day weekend. So I would say a lot of people know I was very active this Labor Day. I had heard that, but I didn't hear it to that extent. Yeah.
Have you decided you're definitely going to send National Guard troops to Chicago?
Well, we're going in. I didn't say when. We're going in. When you lose, look, I have an obligation. This isn't a political thing. I have an obligation. When we lose, when 20 people are killed over the last 2.5 weeks, and 75 are shot with bullets, there's no place in the world including you can go to Afghanistan, you can go to places that you would think of. They don't even come close to this. Chicago is a hellhole right now. Baltimore is a hellhole right now. I would love to have him call. I would love the governor of Illinois. I'd be honored to take his call. All he has to do is say, sir, we need help. It's out of control. And everyone knows it is. He's not kidding anyone. I would love to have, I would say, Governor Moore call, because I watched him over the weekend trying to explain that Baltimore, what they need is housing. No, they don't need housing. They need to get rid of the criminals. These are hardcore criminals. You know, we took many people off the streets of Washington, D.C. They're hardcore. They're not going to be good. In 10 years, in 20 years, in 2 years, they're going to be criminals. They were born to be criminals, frankly. They were born to be criminals, and they're tough and mean, and they'll cut your throat, and they won't even think about it the next day. They won't even remember that they did it. And we're not going to have those people.